Welcome to our latest video. As promised, I will be dropping these paint-on tutorials every few weeks on the channel in continuation of my previous videos. In this video we will go through the process of red reflective armor. My apologies for not having a wet palette shown on this video. I will fix it in the next one because the armor will be in 3 parts, 2 parts for the front and 1 part for the backpack. The colors I'm using will be shown on screen, and whenever I go back and forth with colors, you know exactly which color I'm using at that point. I will speed up the process as well once I've explained stuff, if there's any explaining to do. Otherwise, this will be a very long video. In my previous videos we talk about how to add light volume to a model, also another video about paint consistencies, and another video about your equipment is needed for this, bust. For starters, we will apply this base coat in a few layers. The color I'm using here is a mix of black red and amethyst blue, aka interactive. The base coat, as you can see, is not applied opaque and thick. Thin it down with 2 drops of water so you get a smooth base coat to work with. It will require a few layers of paint on some of the areas, but in this way you keep it really smooth. Now, there are a few ways to apply base coats, to be fair. I'm showing you one of them, and it's all, brush techniques. Many people think you can only achieve smoothness with an airbrush, which isn't really the case. As you can see in the end, you will probably hear this quite a few times throughout these videos, is that thin layers of paint will get you a smooth surface in the end. It all comes down to getting the right consistency, testing, your overload brushes, test it on your hand or anywhere else before you apply it on your model. These are pretty important steps. So applying a base coat can go in a few ways. You can start like I'm doing here, just get the color on and make it opaque on the whole armor. To get a more textured armor, we should have started differently, and these techniques will be shown in future videos as well, if people like to see these. An example I can give you is a heavily wetted one, or old worn armor. For example, you don't have to go all the way opaque. You just start applying dots and scratches, a lot of scratch work. Overlap your other scratches with brighter marks and colors, so in the end you get these fine scratches all over each other, and you get a very textured armor. This way, you create texture. But remember, this technique will also put a lot of pressure on your brush. Lots of scratch work can get you a crooked tip on the brush, for example. Told before, while applying this base coat, I will speed up some progress to shorten up the video, because I don't think you want to hear me talking for 3 hours how to apply this brush strokes. This is a bust from Bust Workshop on mymanufactory.com, and it's printed by Tamer Witherspan. As usual, I will link it all down below if you're interested. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like this kind of content. There is a lot more incoming, of course, but all these things take time, and since this isn't my day job, I have to do this in my precious free time, which I barely got, but here we are, trying. So, our first layer is done, the base coat, and now we are going to apply black red from AK Interactive. It's our first layer onto the base coat mix. Again, I used more like 1 or 1.5 part of water on this paint to make it more like a creamy consistency. It's to build up layers. Now remember, in the first video I showed you how to take a picture of your primed model. It's a good time to take that picture because it could help you out a lot figuring out your light placement onto the model. In this step you have to make sure the areas you want to highlight are covered with this, black red. When this step is done, you will notice I'm gonna add some water to the paint. Well, you can't see it, but I am adding water to the paint, which means it will be a little bit more transparent. This will create a glaze, and that's how you create your transition between the corn red and the black red. Your brush strokes will mostly go from dark to the bright part because you want the shadows to be shaded and you want the bright parts to be highlighted. So I'll repeat, when you apply a glaze, work your way from shadow to bright, and again, thin layers of paint will get you smoothness. In the video you will see also I will go a lot of back and forth. I'm correcting things as I go. I'm also pretty new in the hobby, I'm doing light volume and whatever. So I'll go back and forth a lot, correcting things, but also showing you guys everything is still possible. You can mess up, of course, everybody messes up, especially when you are growing into the hobby, and it's okay to correct things and learn from it. That's how I see it. You don't have to grab for a tutorial when you are stuck. Just keep trying and just see what happens in the end. It's not, the people say it for a reason though. Trust the process. And mostly they're right. Trust the process. So just keep going with your glazes, repeat it, build the color up with thin layers, so everything will stay smooth. Right now we're gonna start applying the corn red from Citadel, and just as a previous layer, actually creamy consistency, maybe one and a half part of water to it, and start mapping out your colors. You don't have to be very precise yet, just put down the colors. That's the most important part. This is also the first time painting the size of a bust. It's all pretty new to me as well. I'm correcting things as I go, carefully, but we are going towards our goal. I hope. I'm used painting smaller models like Warhammer 40k and Age of Sigmar, but that's the point of the video, right? When I'm learning things as I go and correct them, you learn from it as well, so it's a win-win. As well now guys, if you want to apply texture, it's possible, you know, you can dots, scratches, very fine tip, you need to apply it. But right now we're just, you know, building up colors. Repeat, repeat, repeat. To build up these layers, you just make sure the consistency of your paint is a creamy one. Like I said in my previous videos, it depends on which paint you're using. So mostly 1.5, 2 drops, and you get like a creamy consistency to build up layers. And when you make a glaze of that color by adding water to it, you just glaze towards the highlighted color you mapped out. So first you map it out, then you make things smooth with glazing, stippling, scratching, whatever. So yeah, I'm taking my time to build things up. I'm still very new, as told before, so I'm still afraid of big jumps in colors and whatnot, but what can I do? I'm trying what suits best for me, and I'm showing you guys what works for me. Will I do things different in this and let's say 5 or 10 years? Probably. I don't know. That's the good part of the hobby, I think. The way people grow in here is, yeah, it's insane. Sometimes what you see on Instagram or YouTube or TikTok. And whether you want it or not, if you go for display painting, you always want to show the best of yourself, of course, on social media, in this case, mini painting. So yeah, I'm truly enjoying the learning curve, and I'm very obsessive with it sometimes also. So it's a good thing to have a wife or whatever, and my kids to keep my life a bit balanced, which I'm very, very grateful for. Next layer, Mephisto Red. I do love the color when it's applied, but when it's dried up it gets kinda dull. So later on the video we try to punch things up a bit, but yeah, same thing over here. We first build up applying the layer with a creamy consistency again, and after that we create a glaze, and we glaze towards the Mephisto Red to create the smooth transition of colors we are looking for. But first we map things out. so we clearly see where we are working towards. After that, the glaze, and we refine things. When we start applying Mephisto Red, we also start edge highlighting, wherever we can edge highlight, of course. In this case, on this bust, there isn't much to edge highlight except the part on the elbow pad, the mid part, and on the backpack a few edges on there as well. Now, this also gives opportunities to create interest on bigger parts of the model, for example, the shoulder pad, the elbow pad, by creating a highlight next to the trim. For example, the lower part of the shoulder pad. You will notice throughout the video I will also create an extra reflection on the shoulder pad, because the light will hit the seal and it will create its mark on the polished armor we are trying to achieve, just to give the eye something more to look at. Also, the lower part of the shoulder pad, it will get brighter as well. We will also create something similar on the backpack and elbow, but you will notice this later on the video when we go brighter and brighter. Now we are going back to Mephisto Red, make it a glaze, and we're gonna apply it in the mid-tone to where we want to be the brightest or highlighted. Remember, I love Mephisto Red as a color when it's applied, but when it's dried up it needs that punch of red. It's a very lovely color, but once it dries up it becomes really dull. So after this layer I was thinking about punching up the reds, and I never tried an ink, so we tried it out, and boy, it did punch up the reds. Don't do the same mistake as I did here. I had too much paint on the brush and I didn't remove it by dusting it first. As inks are a very different consistency than acrylic paints, but as mentioned before, nothing is lost as long as you keep your paints thin enough. I just keep repeating the same areas with every layer and make adjustments as I go. Nothing is certain. You just have to trust the process sometimes. And if that process means you have to tone it down or brighten it up on certain areas, just do it. Don't hold back. Just remember, when you apply inks, it takes longer to dry, so make sure to wait between each layer when inks are involved. Another thing I found out. So yeah, we are still learning as we go, and I'm still showing how to handle these situations. I don't know if it's the correct way, but in the end I'm happy with it, and that's what matters. I add some water to the red ink as it's very strong in pigment, as you can see, and this time don't forget to wipe it off so you won't have an overloaded brush before you apply it. Just keep going over those same areas to build up a nice transition with both layers. Now we're going to start applying the wild rider red to build up again, but as these areas getting smaller and smaller, one way to build up these layers are very small and controlled brushstrokes or stippling, like I'm doing right now. So it's quite a big jump in red when applying the wild rider red. As mentioned before, I'm gonna start applying the scarlet red from AK, but as a glaze. The red ink and the highlight upon it with the wild rider red will be quite the jump in transition. So the scarlet red is a nice warm red to make this transition. And again, build up the paint towards your brightest areas, so it won't be a massive jump from dark to bright, but more of a slow transition to where your brightest parts of the model will be, just by adding, dots or small brush strokes in the area between. when you're building up with the sunny skin tone, the armor will go, yeah, very warm and has an orange tint in it. So in the end it will look like orange. So you have to make sure the highlight has to be very narrow, a narrow highlight but a large red midtone. When you get the transition done, we move on to brightening up the Wild Rider Red, because the Wild Rider Red has quite a strong orange tint in it, and you don't want to go too heavy on the orange. The highlights has to be very narrow and the midtone very large, so large red midtones, and the highlight that's orange very narrow. I try to make it more interesting by enforcing this very small reflection that bounces off of the seal. said in the beginning of the video, you can build up layers by scratches, dots, strokes. There are many ways to represent armor. For example, brushed steel, very shiny or polished armor like we are doing now. We are trying to create a polished red armor, but it can also be a very, worn and heavy weathered armor that's been through a lot of combat. I will show these techniques in other videos, but for now let's just try and map things out and make it a smooth transition, which is what this video is about. Now you see this welt rider red, it starts to get shiny. We gotta make sure we do not go to orange. So when all things are done, you sometimes have to go over it with a very thin layer of scarlet red, and I really mean a thin layer, like 5-6 parts of water. I call it a filtered glaze. It's basically water, so make sure you wipe off that brush before applying these filtered glazes. You might have to go over it 2, 3, maybe 4 times with these glazes, but you will notice a difference. Just give it time. We're gonna make a glaze and start glazing the rider red, making the transition towards it a lot smoother. My brush strokes are getting more precise, more controlled, but still adjusting and refining as we go. I think I'm using scarlet red again as a very thin glaze to keep that intensive armor going. I mean the intensive red, sorry. Again, we're going to apply the Wild Rider Red and build up from here on again by adding some sunny skin tone to the mix as we build up. These are very small marks, you have to do small adjustments, so don't forget to take a break every now and then so you just have a fresh look at things when you are back from grabbing a coffee or eating some food. This helps to clear the mind and vision, so when you're back you will notice the flaws you did not see before. From now on, we start adding more and more solid skin tone to it, and it's basically all over again of what we have seen in the video. A small summarize of all of it. We apply a layer. After that, we glaze it to make the transition between two layers of paint more like a nice gradient from dark to bright. Every layer we apply are highlighted. Every layer we apply are highlighted areas and they become smaller and smaller. Red armor means very narrow highlights, large midtones to keep that red value in there. As red has two options, you either go cold, so you can go somewhat pink, or you can go with more warmth in it, as I'm doing right here, so it has more orange into it. That's why I say don't be afraid to work back and forth in the shaded areas or mid-toned areas to tone things down if needed. Glazing the red again if needed, if you lost, some of that. And yeah, that's basically it. Enjoy the rest of the video as I will be going brighter and I keep going smaller and smaller until I'm dotting really. So I will see you at the end of the video. Here we are at the end of the video, the first part of the bust tutorial. As said before, the Armour will probably come in 2 or 3 parts, so stay tuned for that if you like to paint along. Got any questions, feel free to ask down below. I learned a lot with this bust so far and I hope you did also, which is the whole part of the video of course. Feel free to ask down below in the comments. Also feel free to join the Discord and grow together with the community we have. We are starting strong in January with a Xenos competition, so that's pretty cool. Also looking forward to that. I will also create a feedback video for it for the people that has joined in it. But first, holidays, good times coming. Next video will be uploaded very soon and I will keep you guys posted on my other socials. Hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.